Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're reviewing a 992 911 Carrera S. Before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Porsche Salt Lake City, Utah for giving me some time with this 911. If you don't know, Porsche Salt Lake City has some of the coolest pre-owned inventory, not only in Utah, but just in the US. Like seriously, check out some of the cars they have. Like for example, right now, they have a Huracan STO. They also have a Ford GT Heritage Edition. Like they get some of the craziest cars that I have ever seen. So check them out, link to their inventory in the description down below. And then on a side note, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below as well. Let's get into it. So powering this 911 is a turbocharged 3-liter flat 6, and this particular one goes through the PDK automatic. Power outputs with this are 444 horsepower and then 390 pound-feet of torque. Now, before we go over the front end of the 911, I do want to mention, if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. So starting with the hood, first off, I love the Porsche decal with the, I guess stripe is what you might call it. It just looks really cool, and it actually continues all along the center of the car. And then you guys can see here, we've got the headlights front and center. Love the design on those as always. And I guess while we're at the front end, we'll pop the hood here. Here's the key fob, by the way. It looks like a car in normal Porsche fashion, but you do have a little latch under here that apparently I am struggling to find. There we go. But you guys can see with the front trunk, we've got quite a bit of storage space. That's one of the cool things about the 911. It's very practical. And then popping down below, you guys can see with the rest of the front end design. And again, when you put it all together, I mean, this is as iconic as it gets. Now, coming around the side here, our time wheel setup is 245, 35, 20 in the front, and then 305, 30, 21 in the back, so completely staggered setup. And then you guys can see with the wheel design, you got the silver on the top, metallic gray below that, and then look at the brake calipers, how those are blacked out. That looks really cool. We've got another Porsche logo here on the side, and then notice stuff like the mirror caps and the door handles are body painted, and notice how the door handles are flush. And then when you put it all together, the Carrera S just has such a cool appearance. I mean, you guys can see with the front how it's a little bit narrower compared to the rear. It really pops because of that. Now, we obviously already went over that whole area with the engine. Again, the 911 is still rear engine. But down below, you guys can see the new light bar taillight design with the Porsche logo, and then 911 Carrera S to signify the package. And then you guys can see we've got parking sensors, and look at the exhaust tips. Those are cool. And wrapping things up, I absolutely love the design here on the Carrera S, but let me know your thoughts on this and let me know your favorite 911 when it comes to looks. Now, taking a look at the door panel, you guys can see soft touch here at the top and then also down below, and then look at the padding here for the armrest. And then we have all of our window controls here with the mirror adjustment, and then I love the look of the handle as well. We also have memory seat function, speaker for the Bose sound system, and then there's a quick look at the mirror itself. And then here are the front seats. You guys can see leather perforated all down the center portion. And this particular Carrera S is pre-owned, and I can tell you the seats have actually worn really well, which just shows the durability of Porsche engineering and build quality. Anyways, we got a bajillion adjustments here on the side of the seats. That's one of the things that's cool about Porsches is if you get to the, I think it's like 18-way adjustment seats, it's as adjustable as it gets. And speaking of seats, you guys can see we have the rear seats back here also leather. Looks fantastic. Obviously this kind of is better as storage rather than as a passenger area because, you know, headroom is limited with the slope design and then legroom as well. And then you can see the pedals, really nice looking. We've got the little key here, and then you can see the light controls there as well. Now, taking a look at the steering wheel, we've got really nice leather trim all around. Paddle shifters in the back for the dual clutch automatic. We also have practical controls here on the front. And of course, our drive mode select is this little dial here on the steering wheel. Definitely a fun touch. And then you have all your regular stocks here on the back. Now we've got the 5-gauge layout here with the gauge cluster itself. You guys can see the little side gauges right there. Love how the RPMs are front and center. And then this one side gauge is actually what shows you the drive modes. So we have a normal, a wet, sport, sport plus, and then an individual mode that you can switch between. And I like how seamless it is with going between the drive modes. It's really cool. And then we do have a backup camera, which direction lines that turn with the steering wheel, and then we got the parking sensors. That's what that little view is for. And then as for the infotainment system itself, first off, response time with the screen is actually really solid. And, you know, on top of that, it's really straightforward. You just have the shortcut bar here, and then you go into the different tabs. I mean, everything just makes sense. It's all very logical, which I appreciate. Soft touch here on the dash, and then you guys can see down below here, with this trim. And this right here, shortcut keys, interesting, I've never seen that before. Anyways, this is for the exhaust to make it louder or quieter. You've got your hazard lights, stability control, and then for the suspension to make it firmer or softer, and then you got more vent action down below. And I talked about the dash and almost forgot, we got the little sport chrono clock. Anyways, this area is kind of like our physical button area, so we've got some physical controls here for the radio. You also have your climate controls, and everything has a very nice feel to it. Even the little shifter here and like all the buttons, like when you click them in, the click is just so satisfying. We also have heated and ventilated seats. We got a little cup holder here with the parking brake behind that. And then you guys can see here with the center console, got some USB action inside, and then you got a nice leather trim here on the top. And while we're on the topic of storage, big glove box. That's one of the cool things about the 911. A lot of sports cars don't even have a glove box. This one not only has one, but it's big. And with that being said, let's see how the Carrera S drives. Let's talk about visibility before we set off. Here's visibility over the hood, both of the mirrors, throughout the rest of the rear. And something I want to mention is I really like this material here on the dash. I know it's not the nice leather trim you get in like the higher end 911s, but as someone who reviews cars for a living, I've actually come to really like this material because what I've noticed is this wears a lot, sometimes better than leather over time. Like this car doesn't show like any wear on these surfaces, which I don't know, that's appealing to me as someone who, like, you know, thinks about owning cars for longer now that I am quote unquote retired from buying cars. But anyways, this is my first time in the 992 Carrera S with the 992 generation. For those of you that aren't familiar with my channel, I reviewed a GT3, I've reviewed a Turbo S, and I have reviewed a GTS as well as a Targa. And the Targa was a 4S, I believe. So that's kind of my, I guess, experience book with whatever you want to call it with this 992 generation. But I'm really excited about the Carrera S because this is, you know, kind of not quite the entry because the entry is the Carrera, but you know, this is, I guess, the entry point that everyone wants because everyone wants at least that little S at the end. Nobody wants to be in a, I shouldn't say nobody, but you know, everyone, it seems like they want to have at least the Carrera S because you get a little bit more power, a little bit more performance. Moving along a little bit here with the 911. Torque's obviously great with this new turbocharged flat six. I think it was back in like 2017 that Porsche switched over to a turbocharged engine for, you know, pretty much all of the 911s. The only 911 rather, yeah, that doesn't really have turbocharged engine is now the GT3 and the GT3 RS. Everything else is turbocharged. And, you know, I would like to say that I don't think it's a bad thing, especially here at high elevation. I think we're here in Salt Lake, it's probably like 4,000, 4,500 feet in terms of the elevation. And so having turbos really helps out because you don't have as much power loss with a turbocharged engine versus a naturally aspirated engine. And on top of that, I don't feel like it gets in the way of the sound. Like, you do get some turbo noises, which is, I think, is actually kind of cool, but you still hear like all of the fun flat six noises that, you know, everyone knows about or, you know, loves with the 911. So torquey. And the transmission, this PDK is just super smooth but super quick. Definitely, like, everyone says it, but it's so true, the best automatic transmission in the car industry. So this particular road isn't too exciting, but I'm using this road to test out the adjustable suspension. So I'm in the firmer setting right now, and when you go over bumps and everything, you can definitely tell, like, everything's firmed up, and the car kind of I wouldn't say, this is not the best word to use, but it almost like it hits a little bit harsher. I was gonna say it's bouncier, but it's just not the best word to use to describe it. But you do feel the extra firmness, I guess is a good way to put it. But speaking of extra firm, we're gonna pop it into the Sport Plus. I wonder if it'll let us, so we can be in Sport Plus, but then we don't have to be in the harsh suspension setting. So I like how easy that is to adjust out of that. And you guys heard it instantly downshifted pretty aggressively when you pop it in the Sport Plus. Yeah, look at that. I'm gonna pop it into the manual mode. Gosh, this transmission is so good. I understand why people are like, yeah, I don't need a manual, because like, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge manual lover, but I mean, this is just so quick, it's so sharp that I just don't think you could ever get tired of the PDK. It's this thing, it's crazy how it builds power. And you know, I read some comments when on my Turbo S review, I said the car kind of had that turbo feel where there's a little bit of turbo lag, and people are like, the 911 Turbo S doesn't have turbo lag. And it's like, okay, it's super responsive right off the bat, but you do still get like another shove as you get higher up in the RPMs that feels like you're hitting the boost, okay? That's just reality. And this car is very similar in that. You get like another shove, right, as you get into higher RPMs. Again, super torquey on the low end, but it does feel like a turbocharged car, and I don't think that's a bad thing, because it's still super exciting to drive, and it still sounds, I mean, listen to this thing. It still sounds amazing, and you get little whoosh, turbo whooshes. So, in summary here, to sum things up with the 911 Carrera S, and also it looks like my parking space is blocked off now, or my entry back into my parking space blocked off. To sum things up here with the 911 Carrera S, I love the looks, I love the interior layout, everything's really easy to use. It drives really well, and you know, I don't really have anything I don't have anything bad to say about the Carrera S. I think it's a great package. And again, this is, I guess, you know, what I've heard some people say is it's the entry into the Porsche world. And you know, I definitely think it's like, you can call it an entry, but this is still such an amazing car. It drives so well.